ran past it. Those short ones are nasty.
Okay, call the meeting to order. First thing we'll have is the roll call. And Steve Epperson is present. Dr. Richard Cordes. Here. Babette Ellis.
Here.
Sherry Ferguson.
Here.
Andrea Gregg.
Here.
Melody Mercer.
Here.
Joseph Levine.
Here.
Kimberly Papke. Kimberly. Cynthia Rosenberg.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. So the next agenda, the only thing on the agenda will be the approval of the minutes. And we do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve the minutes.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Dr. Cordes made the motion and Babette?
Yeah,
made the second.
I guess this
Okay.
one's on, okay.
Any opposed? Unanimous carried. Okay, now we're gonna be open for public comments. Let me get my list here. First one is Laura Donahue.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, I'm Laura Donahue. I'm the Executive Director of the Texas Humane Legislation Network. And just briefly this morning, I first want to start by saying thank you to the program and to the agency staff. It's really been an increased noticeable effort on the part of the outreach staff to work really hard in letting folks know about this program. And we saw TDLR at Texas Unites recently. We know that a lot of folks went to the booth and learned about the program, so I do want to start by saying thank you. I really appreciate their hard work in trying to get the word out. I wanted to share some concerns this morning about still the small number of breeders, relatively speaking, that are registered in the program. And while I appreciate all the hard work on the staff in trying to spread the news that the program is here and what the licensing requirements are, it seems that that hasn't made a real significant impact on the number of breeders registering. And there's been a couple of really large, high-profile cases that the SPCA of Texas was recently involved on. They were cruelty cases, but they uncovered a couple different breeding operations, Fannin and Van Zant County in particular, that actually cost that nonprofit upwards of $20,000 just to house and care and treat these animals. I know one of those facilities was not registered and should have been. I'm not sure about the other one. But again, those are just very recent reminders that we know that there are facilities out there that should be licensed and they're not. We recognize the hard work that the agency is taking to try to get the word out. That does not seem to be having any impact on the number of breeders becoming registered. We really appreciate the breeders that are always here at this meeting. Those are the folks that are really doing right by the program and by the agency, but we know that there are folks that aren't, and we are certainly committed to helping the agency however we can spread the word. We always have been, but I hope that that's something that this committee can really take a hard look at. Thank you.
Thank you. Bobby Barnett.
Well, first off, I think everybody knows me. I just want to thank TDLR for the past year and all that they've done in my disaster in Van Zant County and during the hurricane. I think they did an awesome job. But as far as what she's saying about the unlicensed, and they're not registered, they should be licensed. When there is a bust, like there has been in Van Zant County, I'm from Van Zant County and proud of it, but the first thing that should be said is all breeders are called puppy mills. There's no such thing. They're substandard breeders. And the first thing that should be noted when there is a bust, they talk about all the money they need to raise the dogs and yada, yada, yada. They're not licensed breeders. Once in a while, there'll be a licensed breeder that does get in trouble, but most of them are unlicensed and working under the below the. So That's all I want to say. There are good breeders, and we appreciate all y'all.
Thank you. Debbie Westerheim.
Good morning, and thank you for holding this meeting so that we have a voice within this institution. I am a breeder, and the focus that I'd like for the board to see and the work groups to see is all of the rescue groups that are out there and trying to get them to a standard that we all can say we're proud of, instead of some of the deplorable conditions those dogs are living in and animals are living in. I do know that there are still unlicensed breeders out there, and I really think that they need to be sought out and found and put into the same legislation that we're living by. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're ready for our staff reports, and the first one's going to come from the licensing division.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Tarsha Red, Licensing Manager for the Breeder Program. You have your report before you, and as you can see, there's not a whole lot of change as far as the total population. Excuse me. But I did want to point out that there is a substantial change in the number of cat and dog breeders, which makes it appear that the number of dog breeders itself has declined, when it hasn't. There's just been an increase of number of the combination breeders that are breeding both cats and dogs versus dogs only. The renewals, not really much of a change. We have had some new licenses, so there's been a slight increase in the number of new breeders that we've been able to connect with. And that's pretty much it.
Any questions?
Any questions?
Can I just ask how many combinations?
There are
Combination dog and cat numbers are on here?
currently 17.
17?
Yes.
Which is a big jump from 2 last
It is.
Yeah.
That's a substantial increase. And if you remember, when the program initially started, there were quite a few combination breeders, and then that number dwindled down, and then we had a lot of breeders that were combining efforts, where one breeder would stop breeding and sell their puppies or their dogs to another breeder. And now we're kind of seeing a little bit of change in the population.
Are the dog and cat breeders that we have registered now, are they predominantly people who were previously registered for just one species, or are they entirely new registrants?
That I don't know for sure. I'd have to actually look at the applications to see if they were new breeders that made changes or current breeders that decided to add one or the other.
Thank you.
Either the increase due to the fact that the inspectors are finding people out there that's not, and you're bringing them into compliance, or is this just you people coming in voluntarily that you didn't know about before?
I haven't really received any information from our inspectors to know if that had anything to do with the increase or with the increase of the new breeders, but we can definitely find out.
Yeah, I'd like to know the effect that y'all are having on the unlicensed out there, that y'all are out looking for them and finding them and bringing them in compliance.
Okay, I'll definitely get that information.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Customer Service Division.
Good morning,
Morning.
board members and chair. My name is Trey Seals, and I'm the director of the Customer Service Division, and am doing an introduction today. I have the pleasure of saying that we've been here all along, answering phone calls and emails and helping customers at our main campus. And we decided that it was time for us to be a part of the advisory board meetings. So I will be either myself or the manager assigned to this program is Irma Mendoza, and she's sitting at the back of the room, and she will also be presenting on the behalf of customer service in future meetings as needed. A little bit about the customer service division, just so that we do a proper introduction. We are 50 staff, hardworking individuals. We will receive approximately 2,000 calls per day and approximately 400 emails per day. So we're extremely, extremely busy, and Mondays are our busier days, Mondays and Tuesdays. We have various languages that we answer calls for in the various industries that we regulate. And we, from our current list, we have English, Spanish, Vietnamese, and Mandarin speakers in our staff. A little bit about me. I've been with the agency for a little over 13 years now, and came over from the Cosmetology Commission, and the customer service division was a lot smaller then, a lot fewer licensees, so we've seen a lot of growth with the agency. I am proud to say that we are the heart of the agency, and we feel. So your emails, your phone calls from your industries, we're there to assist and guide. And most of the questions that we get for this particular industry are regarding the definition of a breeder. And what does that mean, 12 and intact? And so we keep it to the high level in our area. If it is a more detailed question, it will go to our regulatory program management area for those kinds of questions that need a little more scrutiny. And the last thing I'll talk about is the data. So for this particular industry, as you can see, the calls and emails are pretty evenly divided, and there aren't a lot of them, but we are sure that we are there to answer those calls and respond to those emails as they come in. That concludes my report today, and I'm happy to entertain questions if you have them.
Trey, Joe Levine, a licensed breeder.
Yes.
I've given your contact information to a number of breeders so they can learn about the program and, of course, the website, and all the feedback that I've gotten, well, 1, 2, 3 people have all complimented the answers or your staff. I just wanted to throw that out there for you.
Thank you. Thank you for
Ms.
that.
Evans?
I was just wondering, when somebody, I'm part of the public, when somebody calls the main number for TDLR, do they know if there is a licensed breeder extension, or are they taken over and said, you know, you would need to call customer service? I'm just curious how
Gotcha.
the public who's inquiring would know that.
Okay. So the 800 number does come directly to customer service, and the one local number. We do try to get everyone over to the website, because that's where most of the information that they're going to need, it can be found. So
So by phone, the 800 goes to you. Is that for all of the licensed groups?
most of them. There are a couple who have populations that do directly contact other staff, but for the most part, we answer all programs.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next report comes from the Enforcement Division.
Hello, Charlotte Melder with the Enforcement Division. I am a prosecutor, and I have the report today with the statistics and some highlights of cases for the fiscal year that we're currently in, which is September 1 of 2017 through the current date. Actually, these numbers go through the end of March, because we need to prepare the report. So if you'll notice on the key statistics, for the total amount of penalties assessed, that's $12,000. And the amount collected is $2,750. And if you actually look up in the report of the cases, you'll see where those numbers are reflected. There are 2 agreed orders, and those were $1,000 each, and these were for licensees who failed to do certain things, such as keeping an accounting of the animals or failing to provide basic grooming. They have been complied with and completely paid. The third case is for $10,000 for multiple violations. that are getting cleaned up. They are working on them. There is a payment plan. $750 has been paid towards the $10,000 assessed. That case is a commission order, and I'm not sure if you know, but the way enforcement works is when we get a case, we review the case after an investigation. The prosecutor can either close the case with a warning or a closing letter, or they send out a notice of alleged violation. The notice of alleged violation, 3 things can happen from that. The first is the person can call us up and say, yeah, you got me. Can we reduce the penalty? Can I show you proof that I've fixed it? Whatever the case may be. And we issue an agreed order. That's the 2 cases that you see at the top. The second one is they cannot respond at all. And we get a default order entered that is signed by our executive director, Brian Francis, and the money is assessed and they owe the money. Or they can call and say, no, I didn't do it, or whatever the case may be, and ask for a hearing before our State Office of Administrative Hearings, which is we refer to as SOA. That is what happened in that 3rd case. It goes to our State Office of Administrative Hearings. The judge hears the case, assesses a proposal for decision. That proposal goes in front of our commission, who makes the ultimate decision. In this case, they found for $10,000, and that person is now on a payment plan after having that order rendered. So as you can see, the breeder program, we have collected 22% of the total amounts assessed, while as TDLR as a whole is at about 41%, but that's just because of the payment plan in this situation. I am happy to answer any questions.
If they let you off easy.
I'm so
Thank you.
excited. Thank you.
Field Operation Division.
Good morning, board members. My name is Fernando Reyes. I'm a field operations liaison. I'll be providing you with the field inspections report this morning. If you didn't know, we changed our name due to the calibration. We were field operations, now we're field inspections division. So just so you know, we're going to cover the most common violations. These are, regular stuff, standards to care, healthcare protocols. Annual inventory is also on there. The housing, mandatory contract provisions, sanitation and house keeping, pest control. Grooming is also on there. And cleaning and sanitation of the primary enclosures is also on there, number 8. Okay. We had some updates to our licensed breeder inspections procedures. We updated to try to keep more consistent with our inspectors as far as what evidence they gather, and this is in pre-license. These steps will be taken by inspectors on each inspection, and they'll gather photos, general pictures, photos of healthcare protocols, exercise protocols. So these are done also where there is no violations found. We try to do this to have a more consistent basis with our inspectors as far as training. If there's another inspector that goes out, so they have evidence of what's going on at that location. So it could be used in a variety of ways. We also, for the pre-license follow-up inspections, if there is violations, then we know what those corrections should be. Periodic inspections as well, we're going to follow the same steps. In each of these inspections, they're going to complete a reference guide. And that's in the case of there are no violations, they'll still complete that reference guide along with those photos. So we'll go to that one. Also, we have scheduling inspections, and this is more to increase our efficiency. We have 4 inspectors right now that juggle multiple inspections or programs, so we wanted to better fit them scheduling for these inspections and to get them done. In this, we'll give a 2-week window for them to be prepared for the inspection. This is the licensee. We'll notify them within 2 weeks that we'll be there. Someday during normal business hours between 8 and 5 that we're going to conduct that inspection. Okay. Our divisional personal updates, as I said, alluded to before, recalibration. Also, this had to do with the, we brought from the exams and education division, we added 5 more inspectors. These were inspectors that were conducting school inspections, barber, cosmetology, driver education schools. They realigned them to better fit with our agency, so they brought them over to field inspections. I can't tell you, excuse me, I can't tell you which one of those will be trained in breeder for your program, but we're looking at all of them just to help us out, okay? As of May 1st, we hired another inspector, Sharon Hollis. She'll be based out of the DFW area. And I wanted to give a very special congratulations to our South Region Manager, who took a position with our Resource Program Management Division, and she will be the Strategic Response Coordinator for that division, for the entire agency. So, and her name is Jennifer Harless. And we're going to be posting a new position, also Field Operations Liaison in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We know we need one up there. And it will be a position that I have here in Austin, and those consist of training, mentoring, things like that with other inspectors, and reoccurring training. So that's all I have for field inspections.
Any questions?
Yes. Joe Levine, a licensed breeder. Mr. Reyes, how are you?
Good.
Good. Congratulations, Ms. Jennifer. Thank you. Am I to understand that the most common violations as listed, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, are those in order of severity? In other words, number 1, standards of care, routine and preventative care, were those?
I don't think they're in severity. I think they're in violations that we see more often.
Okay.
Not in severity. These are mostly things that are written on an inspection report.
So it's not necessarily in the order that they're listed?
No, sir. They're just listed as what is the common thing, or what's the most thing that we issue a violation on.
Thank you. Second question I have is on the photographing of facilities. The wording has been changed in the procedures to state whether there's no violation or even a minor violation, pictures will be taken.
Correct.
I understand the motive behind it, but what assurances do the breeders, especially breeders that are doing it the right way and who are mentors to other breeders,
Right.
and have spent a lot of money building their facility, what assurance do the breeders have that those pictures aren't going to be shared? That they'll, you know, in light of the recent Facebook scandal,
Right.
Privacy is a big issue. And so as a breeder, I'm not really sure I want pictures of my facility. My name is trademarked. We spent a lot of money setting this thing up.
Right.
And nobody taught us how to do it. We had to learn on our own. But now, and I have nothing to hide. We're doing it the right way. So the question I have is, what assurance do breeders coming into the program have that their information isn't going to be shared with other breeders, other inspectors? You know, I understand you guys are probably going to take it back to the office and put it in the cache.
Right.
And there it's going to stay. But what assurance do we have that that's actually going to happen? That you'll respect the breeder's privacy?
Right, and I mean, in everything that we do with the field inspections, that is our goal for the security of information. We, you know, obviously have to conform with the Open Records Act in that case as well, so I just want to remind you of that. But these are mainly to focus on the consistency of the inspections, that we're doing them all the same way as per the rule states. These photographs, I mean, they could be, you know, an overall look of the facility. Also, I mean, we've gotten stuff off of Google Maps just to help other inspectors, future inspectors, to know where the facilities are at, because some of these are pretty back in the woods. So we take pictures. We take pictures of roadways. We take pictures just to help out the other inspector so he doesn't get lost. So we're all doing this in a consistent effort based on that. But as far as assurances, I have to refer to Molly. Or Brad.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, board members. I'm Brad Bowman, General Counsel. Just wanted to address the concern. Generally speaking, any information that the agency collects or maintains is open to the public and can and would have to be disclosed in an open records request. That doesn't mean we're going to be, giving it out. We're going to be very careful with that information in terms of how we handle it. But just so you know, most information that we have in our files and our records is available to the public if it's requested. There are some exceptions for trade secrets, for copyrighted, trademarked information, and things like that. So we would have to look at the specifics of that if there were a request that came our way for that kind of information. Again, the general rule is things are open and available to the public if they're requested.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that explanation. Our name is trademarked, Holy Shih Tzu. People were trying to steal the name.
I love it.
Years ago when we had to get it trademarked, and we kind of wrestled with the feds to get them to approve it, but, so that is a concern. So, thank you.
Ms. Ellis?
Ma'am.
What other license groups are actually having the same photo situations? Beauty salons, tow trucks? Give us some information about how the agency is handling the other licenses as well.
On our pre-license the breeder program is the only program that has a pre-license function, okay, a pre-license inspection. Now, for tow or for cosmetology, we also take photographs, and it can be for no violations. Take photographs of trucks, just to what they look like, where they're operating. Our vehicle storage facilities, we take a lot of photographs. And this is all for a complete inspection. And then there may be something where we missed that a photograph will tell us, and that's why we take photographs as well.
So all the licenses that are registered with TDLR, I think there's 31 or 39 at this point, all have a photo system, whether it's pre or post licensing.
Well, I don't know about the other ones. I just know about the ones at field inspections. It has an inspection function with TDLR. I think then those are 8 programs, but we do obtain photographs for those inspections.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We'll hear from our regulatory program next.
Good morning. I'm Russell Tolley with the Program Specialist with the Regulatory Program Management Division. First off the bat is our name change. We're formerly known as the Compliance Division. We're now the Regulatory Program Management Division. We do have a new director of the division, David Gonzalez. He's not new to the agency or to the division. He was formerly a deputy director. Lee Parham has been now named as the deputy director of the division, and Lee's with us today. So,
Congratulations.
Recent outreach programs. I did attend the Texas Unites for Animals conference. Thank you for those kind words earlier. It was a well-attended conference. There were a lot of people there, a lot of animal control officers, a lot of people who had a touch to the public or might be able to refer, say, an unlicensed breeder to the agency, and informational brochures were handed out. So hopefully we're getting the word out. I will attend the Sheriff's Association conference in Grapevine, and I'll also host a table there talking about the breeder program. There'll be some other aspects of TDLR's presence that we'll discuss at that informational table. I will also attend the Texas Animal Control Association annual conference in November, and I will provide additional information there. In the past, I have attended the Mount Pleasant conference of the Responsible Pet Owners Alliance. Again, hosting an informational table, offering questions and answer sessions, just spreading the word generally. So that concludes my report. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to take them.
Been out and about a lot, ain't you?
And more coming. All right, thank you.
Any questions?
I have a question. My name is Andrea Gregg. Do you plan on going to any dog shows or cat shows and actually showing up to those places where they have like pulling contest and the bully breeds, and actually having a booth there at dog shows or possibly cat shows so that we can maybe find some of these breeders?
I'm not well connected to the breeders survey, so if you do have a contact or know of a show coming up, please let me know. I'd be happy to attend those conferences.
Great.
I actually show dogs. If you want, Melanie Mercer,
Mhm.
if you want to get with me later, I can tell you where
Okay.
some of the biggest ones that
Okay.
might do you the most good as far as attendance.
Oh, thank you. I have attended the Canton Market Days dog alley and have talked to all the breeders there in the past. Last summer was the last time I did that. I'll be doing that again this summer and spreading information on how to register.
May I ask?
Mhm.
Is all of our information in English? Is there a secondary language possibility?
There is. We do have, for example, Spanish speakers. I don't speak Spanish myself, but we do have people fluent in the language here, and we could develop Spanish language translations.
In the past, we had actually asked for the materials to be in
Mhm.
both languages, so
Mhm.
at least the handout materials that could be on a table or offered in certain places would be available
Okay.
for understanding. I don't know if Mandarin would be something. There's just so many possibilities, but I think Spanish certainly would be one of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sherry Ferguson, I'd just like to ask, is there anything we can do or any of the shelters or groups could do to help you with the outreach?
Let me know of upcoming shows. I'd be willing to attend. If there's some information you want distributed, please feed it to me, and we'll filter it through the agency and see if that's something we want to include in our outreach efforts.
That your information that we could help distribute.
Absolutely. You know, we can contact each other and look for possibilities.
Ms. Mercer?
Actually, you might consider veterinary associations.
Absolutely.
Because veterinarians as a whole don't know about this. They don't deal with breeders. They usually are spaying and neutering everything. But the ones who do, maybe contact information, their regional
Mhm.
veterinary medical associations and larger conferences. You might consider those.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? Thank you, Russell.
Thank you.
We'll hear from the executive office.
Sounds like we're going to keep Russ pretty busy.
Looks like it.
Carla James, TDLR. Excuse me, just a couple of quick notes. We are fully up and running on our commission again. We've had 2 new appointees from the governor. Dr. Ray Callis is an anesthesiologist from the Beaumont area, and we also have Dr. Gary Wesson, and he's a retired orthodontist from Bastrop. So we are up and running full speed again, and excited to have those 2 gentlemen on board with us. I believe that I have had the fortune of visiting with a number of people from our audience today in our strategic planning sessions. State agencies are required once every 2 years to go through the strategic planning process, and that is a document that we put together for the legislature to review prior to a legislative session, and we also turn it into some oversight agencies. I've worked at a number of state agencies and have not experienced the type of strategic planning that TDLR goes through. It's quite impressive, actually. We went out to a number of cities in the state. We went to Arlington, McAllen, El Paso, Houston, and Austin. Hello. And just had an open forum with our licensees and people who are interested in our licensees. And quite impressive the way that we do things and get information. So all of the information that we receive through those sessions, in fact, Brian is in a session right now editing all of that information to go into our strategic plan. And that plan kind of develops how we're going to move into the next legislative session. To give you an example, the last time we did strategic planning 2 years ago, we came out with 56 initiatives to go to the legislature with, and 52 of those passed. So this is information that we're being provided by our licensees and the general public. So we do listen and send it directly to the legislature. That report should be coming out sometime in June after our commission has reviewed it and approved it. And that'll formulate what we go into the 86th session with. To give you some perspective of that, not 2 years ago, but 4 years ago, we had 8,000 comments that we went through. That's a lot of information. We have 800,000 licensees who affect 25 million Texans, so it's really important for us to get out there and get that information. And that concludes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Got off lucky.
I did.
Our next item here is discussion on the new rulemaking requirement put in place by the 85th legislature.
Good morning. My name is Molly Fudel. I'm an Assistant General Counsel. So I'm here today to talk about a new legislative development and how it affects your program and some implications as far as our increased efforts on outreach, which Russ talked a lot about. So in your packet, you'll have a copy of a section of the Government Code, Texas Government Code, Section 2001.0045. This was passed by the most recent legislature, and what it says basically is that state agencies cannot adopt a new rule that imposes a cost on regulated persons unless they repeal or amend another rule that decreases the costs, so offsets the costs so that there's no total increase to regulated persons. There are some exceptions. For example, is necessary to comply with federal law, is necessary to implement legislation, or is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of residents of the state. But this impacts the licensed breeder program uniquely because you have in your statute the requirement that your rules meet the minimum that the federal government has passed for humane handling and care of dogs and cats. What that means is if we were going to pass a new rule that increases the cost on regulated persons, we have very little wiggle room where we could decrease the costs. Because of that, I know you'd previously talked about doing a survey. We didn't know how useful a survey would be, so we haven't conducted that survey. Instead, we're focusing more on outreach, which Russ talked a lot about. We're also, in the General Counsel's office, we've been asked to put together a continuing legal education for the Austin Bar Association. There was one that was done previously, and they liked it so much that they want us to do another one, so that's another thing that's upcoming. And that kind of transitions into item G on the agenda, which is a discussion and possible appointment of work group on outreach. Because of our increased focus on outreach, we thought that you as advisory board members would be an excellent resource to help us, and I think that's definitely been shown today so far in the meeting. So we put this item on the agenda in case you were interested in putting together a work group to help us figure out how we can get the word out about the program.
I think it's already pretty well been covered, isn't it?
Right. So the purpose of a work group would be if a few of you wanted to spend more time giving us ideas. I mean, you definitely don't have to do a work group to do that. You could always email Russ directly or email the advisory board team if you have some ideas for outreach.
Any questions?
Well, I know you, Babette Ellis, public member. We're free, so there's no cost up or down. But I heard a lot of great ideas just coming towards y'all instead of trying to put them all into a work group, which just means they're going to say the same thing and want to send it to you as well. So if you want to have a contact number or email, I think everybody who volunteers on this group would be happy to give you as many ideas as they could. I think we're all spending a lot of time coming together to want this to be a successful outreach. I think that's great. And yes, we were all wondering what happened to the survey, at least I was. And so now we understand that actually I think outreach is essential at this point. I do think a lot of people do not know about this program. When I say I'm coming to this type of meeting, they're going, what for? And so I'm like, wait a minute, they don't know either. So I am very happy to hear that you're accepting a lot of ideas and that we can keep him on the road. You know, let's do that. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes, Cindy Rothermel, Rescue Representation. I would like to know, is there any issue with having those flyers, handouts, and communications that Russ takes out available on the website for download?
I don't know of any off the top of my head, but that's another great idea. Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thanks.
I think we've moved down to, she covered G, so we're recommendations for agenda items for the next meeting.
I have one, sir. Next year, and I know it takes about a year to do this, I just found out, again, Babette Ellis Public, that the breeders were given a questionnaire. I'm not really sure if anybody can explain to me what that is. I'm not part of the program. And I don't know if there was a decent feedback. I remember from the past that it was lukewarm. And it may have been just the questions asked, or maybe they didn't even know that they were supposed to give them answers back. Can anybody help me with that before we go to another agenda item? Because I was wondering about the questionnaire versus the survey, which was a cost analysis. Okay.
I don't remember exactly what happened. It's been, a year and a half ago that we did the survey.
Well, the questionnaire.
Well, it was, I think it was more in the form of a survey, the questionnaire.
Okay, yeah, wouldn't know, so.
I don't think there was enough response to it to, Russ, do you remember how that come down, what we did with that?
Sorry, Russ.
That's fine. This is Russ Tolley again. I'm not familiar with the questionnaire. We did do a survey. They may be one and the same. The survey response was poor, to say at least. I think we had maybe 17 responses out of, I think at the time there was somewhere around 150 some odd breeders at the time. So the response just wasn't enough to make a valid survey at that time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would there be any harm or any good by resending the survey and do it again? Or maybe reword some of the questions, or
We
the
could
invite to
do
fill out the survey?
We could do an additional survey, and maybe Molly, address that in her presentation. There isn't much we could do with the information we got because of the recently passed legislation that prevents us from enacting further rules that would impose a cost. But we could still do an informational survey if that's what the advisory board would like.
Mr. Chairman, Carla James, TDLR. We certainly could. I think the concern on our part is that we're, one, gathering information that we can't do anything with, and that would potentially give the impression that we could do something with that information. I wouldn't want to mislead the industry. And given the very low turnout we had last time, I'm not necessarily convinced that we could generate much more. We are talking in a number of other professions about surveys, and they're they're not well used.
What's the board's opinion on this right here? We need a motion to recommend it or not?
Well, Richard Cordes, veterinarian. I was part of that work group, and the survey was very poorly answered, okay? I think you're right on 17. I was thinking 18, but something like that numbers. And it was very poorly responded to. I would much rather see us spend our money rather than on a survey to more outreach. To get out and get with the people a lot more, okay? And let them know what we do and how we do it and why we're doing it, rather than send out a survey that's going to be poorly responded to.
Anyone else? Thank you, Russ.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, it's time to set for our next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, if I could again,
Yes,
Carla
ma'am.
James, my apologies. Giving the executive update, I just smooth forgot to say something really important, which is this is Tamala's last meeting with us. We are stealing her and taking her downtown to the executive office, where she has been before. The Kay Mahan, who has been with us for 20-plus years taking care of our commission, has finally decided to leave us and retire, and so we're pilfering Tamala and taking her downtown. So we have two very qualified ladies who will take her place in the process of hiring a replacement for Tamala. So you will have somebody wonderful to replace her, but you won't see her directly.
Can we give a round of applause for her work?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So it's taking two people to replace you,
I
right?
thought the same thing.
There you go.
We have 31 advisory boards, so everyone has a fair share of work.
Amen to that.
Okay,
Normally, we let whoever will take her place person get with all of us to get on the calendar, especially since this is a big TDLR scheduling nightmare. I don't know if I should call it that, but on their calendar as well. So usually we say schedule us, but that may not be the will of the rest
We can
of them.
follow the same process. It's not a problem. If you all don't set a date today, again, we have very qualified ladies that will take care of you until we hire someone to replace Tamala.
that's what I should do now, is set the date for the next meeting. I'm looking at the first week in May, first, second, or third. Nobody wants to come here on Friday, I don't think, so the first or the second, will that be available?
Of what month?
May.
Next year?
Yes. It says then for the, pull my calendar back.
Mr. Chairman, Carla James again,
Yes, ma'am.
TDLR. If you are going to want a comprehensive update on the legislative session, you may want to push it till June. May is the end of the 86th session. We can
Okay.
certainly have the meeting, but we may not have a full array
Right.
of information to provide you.
But the law says that we have to have it within a year.
Well, I
So
think
I've
it
got
says once
set it-
per year, so I think we've got some wiggle room, but let me.
Okay? Yeah,
Twice a year.
it's once.
So once
We've been
per
doing it
calendar year,
twice.
Molly?
I believe so.
Should, our attorney's checking for us to make sure
Yes.
Okay.
we're not getting in trouble. It's certainly up to you all. I just wanted to provide you that option to get a full legislative update after the conclusion of session.
It says that the advisory board will meet annually.
It's within a year. Set the date for May the 1st, 2019.
You have to meet once per calendar year, so you can have it any time in 2019 that you choose.
So let's let them
Okay.
set after the session. Let's let them set the
So,
date. June, yeah.
okay.
But would June give you guys enough time to
Oh.
get stuff together?
Sure will. We track stuff daily through session, but we won't know until the end of May what has finally passed and is ready for the governor's signature. So again, I'm not trying to push you into June, just want you to
Okay.
understand that we can give a more comprehensive picture if you push
That's
it
fine
into
with me.
June.
If we have no, is, we set it for June the 12th. Uh-huh. Wednesday. Okay, we've got the. Any objection to 10? 10 a.m.
What day is that?
On Wednesday. Got that? Well, we did. She brought that through there. Yeah. Okay, we are adjourned.